I often say that Midnight Library of Baseball is best listened to at night. So, to begin this final episode of season 4, I'm going to speak to those listeners winding down, in bed, or going to bed. If you're not, feel free to pretend you are. Close your eyes if they're not already closed. Now, think of your favorite team. Picture their stadium. Picture your favorite seats or the seats you always wanted but couldn't afford. Now imagine that when you open your eyes, you're there and your best friends are sitting next to you. You're watching the game, talking to your friends, the best seats in the house, except you're not really at the game. It's the year 2040, and this is virtual reality. The sights, the sounds feel very real. And that's not all. There's a special package you can buy for just $10 a month. It's a little box that you open at the start of your experience. With the press of a button, fragrances release into the air: popcorn, hot dogs, smells of cut grass, and lots of people. For another $5 a month, you can get a device to hang above you that simulates the sun and also sends out a slight breeze from time to time. And your friends? They're plugged in, sitting in their own favorite seats, but also sitting right next to you, able to hear you and talk to you. It's, of course, not the same as being at the game, but man, is it closer than anything that's ever existed. But ultimately, is it adding to this nostalgic, deeply emotional relationship between fan and broadcaster? Or is it fragmenting it? Tonight, I'm going to trace the beginning of this season and the origins of baseball broadcasting, and my own experience and aha moments, all the way to the future and what we can expect, whether we like it or not, from broadcasting and baseball. From historic milestones
That did it! Holy cow! A strikeout gets his 300th career win, and I tell you, this is
to euphoric moments shared by millions,
in a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.
to the simple banter that brought us together.
Rapid Heads, about Malachi with the call. I love that name.
It's a good name.
When you and I have a child together, we should name it Malachi.
Welcome to the Midnight Library of Baseball, Season 4, the broadcast that raised us, from radio to television and beyond. I'm Ben Orlando.
Holy cow!
I think if Phil Rizzuto were still alive, these are the two words he'd use to describe the evolution of broadcasting in baseball. Holy cow. And if I could go back in a time machine and have a conversation with Scooter, well, that would be great, period. But I'd talk with him about his job, the job of a broadcaster, this perfect marriage of informative, personable conversation and sport. And I'd ask him, Scooter, do you think broadcasting in baseball is up there with peanut butter and jelly or tomato sauce and pasta? And Scooter might say, I never really thought about it. I'm just being myself and talking about the game I love. But it is my job to think about it and to think about how probably no one in the 1910s was thinking about it. Thinking about how you have this game, this sport that seems tailor made for a person or a group of people to casually describe the game and then in the pauses talk about themselves. If a baseball season were a novel, it would hook you with the drama of the game, with the hopes and expectations for your favorite players and teams. And then, as you're hooked, as you're paying full attention, some guy you don't know starts to talk. He gives you facts, he gives you insights. He leads you willingly, excitedly deeper into the corn. And slowly, he gives you pieces of himself. And then, at the end of the season, what you thought mattered doesn't. What you thought you cared about was wrong. Sure, you care about your team, wins and losses, player success. But what really grabbed your heart was the man himself, the way he talked, the little bits of life he described that made him just a bit more vulnerable. Like when Phil Rizzuto admitted on air that he finally went and got that facial he was curious about. Or when he discussed little arguments he had with his wife of 64 years, Cora. As the world sped up, baseball and broadcasters helped us preserve the conversation, even if it was often one way. Baseball has gaps, and gaps within gaps. There's the gap of the inning changeover, but then within an active inning, there are gaps while the pitcher gets set, gaps after a play and the ball finds its way back to the mound, gaps while umpires discuss an important decision. These are all opportunities for either silence and introspection or chances for fans to connect with another human being, the broadcaster. Besides these gaps, what also makes baseball profoundly different from other sports is the duration of the season. The NFL has 17 games, the NBA 82. Baseball has 162 games. Across this long arc, we as fans are doing something we're probably not even aware of. We're becoming invested in another person. We pay attention to little details. Oh, Phil Rizzuto laughs a certain way when he's embarrassed. Or his voice goes up when he realizes he's made a mistake. When he talks about his wife, we can tell by the way he talks that he's smiling. Without even trying, we learn empathy. We learn to care about another human being and what they care about. We recognize patterns that can help us relate to people we actually interact with in life. The relationship between a fan and a broadcaster can deepen our humanity. Did people in the 1910s foresee any of these cascading effects of baseball on the radio and then on television? No, because they didn't see radio as anything. A great example is when David Sarnoff, who became a major player in the radio business, was pretty low on the ladder in 1916 when he worked for the Marconi Wireless Radio Corporation. And this is the year he sent a memo to the vice president of the corporation. At the time, radio was mostly used for naval communication. And Sarnoff, in this memo, said radio would be great for entertainment. And he thought it could penetrate the market as much as 7% of American households. In response to this memo, the vice president shook his head and scoffed. This was the vice president of Marconi Wireless Radio, and he couldn't see the potential of radio for entertainment. He also scoffed at Sarnoff's predictions. And the craziest thing here is that Sarnoff was completely underselling the potential of radio. He said it would penetrate 7% of American households, and he got laughed out of the room. By 1950, radio was present in 95% of American homes. If Sarnoff had predicted 95% infiltration, he would have been locked in a mental institution. But that's the thing about revolutions. Most revolutions are not seismic. They're little blips that ripple out, and people at the time don't notice anything at all. Take, for example, this whopper of a change. And as I say this, try to picture Tom Hanks from A League of Their Own speaking this line. There's no talking in baseball. No talking. There's no talking in baseball. Say this to a teenage baseball fan today, and they'd think you're crazy. So would a 50-year-old fan for that matter. But banter did not become a part of baseball broadcasting. Not really, until the 1930s. Sure, you had Graham McNamee, the opera singer turned broadcaster, who made banter a thing. But it took a while for that drop in the pond to ripple out. Here's another whopper: the image of several broadcasters bantering with each other during a game. This is what I grew up with Phil Rizzuto and Tom Seaver and Bobby Mercer. But this didn't become a reality until the 1970s, 50 years after radio broadcasts of ball games. This was a weird one to wrap my head around. This reality that baseball broadcasts after the 1940s did have multiple broadcasters, but they took turns. They never really talked to each other until the 1970s. What has remained, though, through all the changes is the connection fans have to the broadcaster. This season, I've only scratched the surface with stories of some of the greats. There are literally thousands of broadcasters who've connected with millions of fans. Because in radio's heyday, there were thousands of radio stations across the country, and most of them covered baseball, be it live or through recreations by guys like Ronald Reagan. I can't talk about even 1% of all these broadcasters, but I hope as you're listening, you're reliving your own unique memories about the broadcasters who, like Ed Randall, maybe influenced you into a career in baseball or sports. Or maybe like Dave from Colorado, who was helped by broadcasters through really difficult times. Or maybe like Victoria in Australia, broadcast helped you feel less homesick when you were so far away. When Americans first connected through sports, it was through baseball. And then with radio, it was fans and not fans following cultural milestones at bars and public venues across the country. Like the excitement and tension of Babe Ruth battling Lou Gehrig for the home run title in 1927. Like troops in World War II laying low in bunkers and listening to a Yankees game. Jackie Robinson bringing hope and connection to millions when he became the first TV sports star in 1947. Bobby Thompson's shot heard around the world. Roger Maris hitting number 61, and Carlton Fisk wheeling the ball fair in 1975. These were moments that transcended sport, when people gathered to share in the highs and lows of competition and tradition and curses and blessings. The relationship between fans and broadcaster has survived many technological changes, but the next wave of innovations could severely test this relationship. Today, the experience of watching or listening to a baseball game involves commercials and ads strategically placed in our line of sight. Ads that are specifically customized to the consumer experience of the particular fan. Smartphones have allowed us more variety, more highlights on YouTube instead of full games, more fragmentation. But still, the relationship has survived. But will it continue? More on that after a break. Hi, everyone. I wanted to tell you about my final extra innings episode on Mr. Burns' old school all-star lineup. This is a special episode because it's not only the last player in this series, but it's also the most mysterious and interesting by far. A man named Jim Creighton. What's amazing is not only did this young man break the game of baseball, but nobody knows about it. And there are reasons why. I'm going to make this episode available free on Patreon because I include a description of my focus for Season 5, which I'm really excited about. If you want to hear this episode on Jim Creighton and find out what I'm doing for Season 5, go to patreon.com/midnightlibraryofbaseball.com. And if you've enjoyed this season and other seasons, please leave a rating or review on iTunes. Okay, back to the show. I read through a number of different articles on what's happening in broadcasting now and what's likely going to happen. All I have to say is buckle up. In a recent Forbes article, journalist Giovanni Malloy described the influence of AI during the 2025 World Series. For broadcasters, AI has made data retrieval almost instantaneous. In the past, guys like Mel Allen and Red Barber relied on their memory. They spent much of their time preparing, learning the backstories of players and certain stats so they could have that information on hand. Today, analysts and producers who feed broadcasters can ask a question and get the answer almost instantaneously, which, according to Malloy, is what current audiences now expect. AI is also affecting the coordination and speed of camera changes, finding the best angles for live shots and replays. And as I mentioned before, fans are seeing ads that are generated based on their specific consumer preferences. So 1,000 fans can be staring at the wall behind home plate and see 1,000 different banners. You're also seeing more statistics and graphics appearing on the screen along with the game. I began this episode with the story of experiencing a baseball game through virtual reality. That story is based on a book chapter by Allison Levin, which is part of a 2021 book by Sabre titled The National Pastime: The Future According to Baseball. This book goes through all different aspects of the game, from rule changes to media, climate to baseball cards, and to audience experiences in the future. In her chapter, Levin writes about virtual reality. And it's funny, I was just speculating when I started to draft my paragraph in terms of the simulated smells and feels of the game. But as I continued reading Levin's chapter, she mentions those things as very real possibilities. In fact, simulating smells is nothing new. I don't want to stray too far here, but I think it's really interesting that something called smell-o-vision existed in movie theaters in the 1950s and 60s. And they were even experimenting with smells in theaters in the late 1800s. But in the 1960s, they had cartridges filled with up to 30 different scents that would release the smells through tubes. But this never took hold. Well, it's coming. Additionally, the sky will be the limit in terms of what viewers want to see and hear during a game. According to Levin, they'll be able to choose which broadcasters they want to hear, what statistics they want to see on the screen. They'll even be able to hop from one game and stadium experience to another. According to Ian Kahn in his article, The Future of Sports, by 2030, quote, for fans, the experience will become hyper personalized. AI powered streaming services will allow viewers to choose their own camera angles, listen to commentary tailored to their level of expertise, and receive real time statistics overlaid on their screens through AR glasses. End quote. And that fear that owners had when radio and then television came along, that fans will stop going to the games because they could just stay at home. Well, that fear may finally become a reality. As Khan wrote, quote, by 2040, the concept of sport will expand dramatically. Virtual reality leagues will achieve parity with traditional sports, with professional VR athletes competing in incredibly complex digital environments that require immense physical exertion and strategic intellect. These events will draw global audiences numbering in the hundreds of millions. End quote. And of course, broadcasters are going to become AI. This has already happened when it comes to translating games in real time from different countries. This will have the dual effect of connecting more of the world to baseball while disconnecting from the true human experience because of AI broadcasters. Now, what does this mean for the communal human experience? If you have a group of friends able to talk to each other and see each other as if they're seated next to each other at a ball game, but in reality they're hundreds of miles apart, is this a good thing? It's a conversation we have today. Are we missing out by giving in to convenience and connecting through cameras instead of in person? Or are we able to have more connection more frequently? Maybe this way, friends and family can experience 30 games together virtually instead of 2 or 3 games in person. What are the benefits and what are the trade offs? One clear theme throughout this episode and this season is attention. We can look at humanity or global factors, but if we narrow the lens just to baseball, we can see a baseball fan's focus splitting and splitting each decade since the popularization of the game. First, you could only watch live. Then you could watch scoreboards or reenactments in opera houses. But your attention is still on the thing in front of you. But with radio, the fan's attention is now wavering because you're listening to the game. There's a broadcaster and you're listening to what they have to say in addition to reporting of the game. And then there's advertising, and you can also do any number of things while you're listening. Then with television, you can watch or listen and do other things. But soon, even your watching experience becomes fragmented. In a few years, you'll be able to fill your screen with dozens of different metrics and possibly other games playing on smaller screens at the same time. You'll be able to change camera angles, change your virtual seat. You can jump into the owner's box of another stadium just like that. And it's not going to stop. As Giovanni Malloy explained, these advances are an effort to keep up with current fans, what they expect today. So the bar keeps getting pushed further and further away from simply being present with one thing. There was a meta analysis in 2016 where authors analyzed 49 different studies on multitasking. What they found was that multitasking has negative consequences on human cognition, specifically comprehension, recall, and task accuracy. If baseball is a way to slow down and connect, then advances in how we experience the game are negating positive effects from the sport. W.P. Kinsella wrote about this all the way back in 1980 when he wrote Shoeless Joe, which was turned into Field of Dreams. Kinsella wrote about people paying large amounts of money to plop down on grass sidelines to simply watch a pickup game because they so badly craved simplicity in their lives. If that was true in 1980, how true is it today? And how far have we strayed from that concept? Maybe in 20 years, many of us baseball fans will be experiencing a game through virtual reality with piped in scents and feels. Maybe my experience will be extremely different from your experience watching the very same game. But over the last 100 years, technology has worked to enhance what really matters: the human connection. A human being sitting somewhere far off, guiding us like an old friend through the game we love, using our attention to strengthen the core of our humanity. As each of you listening thinks about your favorite broadcaster, what they have meant to you, you can take this moment to connect with not just the thought, but the feelings of that relationship. Whatever happens, that's what matters. And to all the broadcasters out there who have raised us, who have inspired us, thank you.
Theme song by Sergei Pavkin and Ashot Danielian. Music from Pixabay and Artlist.io, arranged and edited by me. Episode research, writing, narration, and production by me, Ben Rolando. Thank you, all my guests this season, and all my listeners and their baseball stories. And if you're thirsty for more episodes between now and season 5, remember there are 20 extra inning episodes at Patreon/MidnightLibraryOfBaseball.com. And number 20 is available free right now. I'm going deep into the library now to work on season 5, and I'll see you on the other side. Hopefully with some fantastic updates. Good night.